I think we'll get going. I want to welcome everyone here today. I'm E.J. Dionne, a senior fellow here at Brookings and a colleague of Bob's. We are here to celebrate a great author, a great book, and an extraordinary piece of legislation. And this may be one of the most unusual events in Washington today, because there are two things people always talk about. One is the decline of legislating. And this book is actually about a successful attempt to legislate a very important and very complicated piece of legislation. And the other thing we hear a lot about is the decline of journalism, that journalists don't spend enough time on substance, they don't put the time in to really explore a story. Well, this book does all of those things. And I want to note that the book is on sale outside. But one of the most important things at a book event is to sell the author's book, especially if you like the author, and I happen to like Bob a lot.
And it makes a perfect holiday gift.
Yes, whatever holiday, yes. Give it to someone for the 4th of July. We're celebrating the fact that Congress actually acted on this very important issue, and the book tells the story in wonderful detail, not boring detail, but wonderful detail. And for those of you who ever worked as a staffer on Capitol Hill, you will love this book, because the heroes are not only two distinguished legislators called Dodd and Frank, but there are some real heroes here among staff people. And before I introduce our audience, I want to introduce guests of Senator Dodd, and the fact that they are listed that way shows how much he appreciates good staff. We have Ed Silverman, who is staff director of the Senate Banking Committee. Ed, wave to everybody. Lori McGrogan, where are you? See, you're like movie stars to me since I read the book, and now I know, how important you are. Who is senior advisor to Senator Dodd at the MPAA, and Brian DeAngelis. Let's see. Oh, we have a whole bunch of people. Brian DeAngelis, Dylan. How do we pronounce it, Senator?
Alois.
Alois.
That's Amy Friend's son.
Oh, Dylan, where are you? Welcome. How are you? Amy Friend and Jean Roslanowicz. Thank you, Bob.
Hey, Jean.
And it's great to have you all here. And when you read this book, you'll realize just how important these people are.
Particularly the last two.
What?
Particularly the last two.
Yes, exactly. Let me just introduce our panel, and I'll tell you how we're going to proceed today. I'm going to introduce Bob first, and he will sort of give you a sense of how he came to write this book and tell you a bit of the story, followed by Senator Dodd. And I really appreciate so much your joining us here today. I also appreciate the fact that Senator Dodd and Barney Frank gave Bob Kaiser full access to him all during the fight over the Dodd-Frank bill, even before it was known as Dodd-Frank. You can even tell the story of how that actually happened, which is nicely told in the book. Then Senator Dodd will comment, followed by my distinguished colleague, another of my favorite people, Tom Mann, a senior fellow at the Brookings Institution. Bob is associate editor and senior correspondent at the Washington Post. He's worked there since 1963. He started right after the day of his birth, I think. He served as a special correspondent in London, a reporter on the City Desk, a foreign correspondent in Saigon and in Moscow. He is the author of 7 books, including The News About the News, American Journalism in Peril, So Damn Much Money, The Triumph of Lobbying and the Corrosion of American Government, and most recently, Act of Congress. Not on this list is a book you wrote about Vegas, which you should also...
It should be.
Yes, you should...
Great American Dreams.
Yes, so anybody who cares about...
Long out of print.
Well, may we bring it back into print. He is a graduate of Yale College. He received his master's from the London School of Economics. Senator Chris Dodd is the chairman and chief executive officer of the Motion Picture Association of America. That will not only guarantee that Bob's book is made into a movie, but guarantee that Senator Dodd is played by somebody really, really cool. I hope so, anyway.
Bradley Cooper,
we could have nominations
Jack
for this.
Nicholson.
That would be good. No, he's the banking lobbyist. Senator Dodd served in the United States Congress representing Connecticut for 36 years, 6 years in the House and 30 years in the United States Senate. He has authored or co-authored legislation in the areas of education, health, financial services, foreign policy, and election reform. He played a decisive role in writing the healthcare reform bill, and he was co-author of the Dodd-Frank Wall Street and Consumer Protection Act, which is what we're talking about today. Tom Mann is the W. Averill Harriman Chair and Senior Fellow in Governance Studies at Brookings. He was Director of Governance Studies between 1987 and 1999. Before that, he was Executive Director of the American Political Science Association. He is the perfect commentator today because his most recent book with Norm Ornstein is called It's Even Worse Than It Looks: How the American Constitutional System Collided with the New Politics of Extremism. And I can't wait for Tom to bring that to bear on this. They were recently named, he and Norm were recently named among the 100 top global thinkers of 2012. He earned his BA from the University of Florida and his PhD at the University of Michigan. I am utterly biased as a moderator. Bob Kaiser, along with Dave Ignatius, probably two most important reasons why I work for the Washington Post. Tom Mann is someone, I come from Massachusetts where politics isn't always on the level, and Tom is on a special list I have, which is people I would commit felonies for. Fortunately, Tom has never asked me to commit one. No one on that list has ever asked me to commit one. And one of the themes of Bob Kaiser's book is that Senator Dodd was one of the most popular people in Congress. People like Senator Dodd a lot. And I've always been, I suppose I shouldn't confess this as a journalist, but I've always been one of those people. And so it's great to have you all here. Bob, welcome, and thank you for coming.
Well, thank you. I don't know why you're giving Ignatius any credit. I was responsible entirely.
Well, he had the power.
And very proud. There's a photo circulating on the internet. Maybe some of you have seen it. It's of a handmade sign, the kind of sign that cheap motels use to advertise free HBO. But this one has a more pointed message. It says, "Can't we just throw Congress off the fiscal cliff?" I found this by chance one day. I thought somebody out there deserved a prize for capturing the spirit of the times. Excuse me. As you know, the approval rating of Congress now ranges around 10-15%. I've been thinking about this. Who are the approvers? What is it that they're approving?
They're all in this room, former staffers scattered around the nation.
It's too easy to joke about it, but it really matters. As I say in the subtitle of this book, Congress really is our essential institution. When it's broken, the country is not well governed, and that's serious. This project began with a phone call from Barney Frank. And I had to confess this to Dodd back in 2009, a little nervously. I met Barney just the other day in 1961. We were both student politicians. We were at the National Student Congress. Chris, I calculate, was then 17. He was about to start his senior year at Georgetown Prep, I believe. Anyway, Barney and I stayed friendly from that time on. I watched his extraordinary career. Interestingly, I was 18, he was 21. We both knew exactly what we wanted to do, and we were both lucky enough to do it. That was a bigger deal in Barney's case because although he didn't talk about it to anybody at the time, he already knew he was gay, and he already knew that was going to be an impediment to his political ambitions. Luckily, he got around that ultimately. When he made that phone call, he was being a good pal. He said, "Your next book ought to be about this stuff." I said, "Well, what stuff?" He said, "Well, the crash, all that's going on. It's a huge story." Barney, of course, was in the middle of it because he had, after patient waiting, just ascended 2 years earlier to the chairmanship of the House Financial Services Committee, as Dodd had just ascended at exactly the same moment to the chairmanship of Senate Banking. Dodd's wait was even longer, a story that he loves to tell and may inflict on you later this afternoon. But he really had bad luck. He sat in the Senate for 28 years before becoming a chairman of anything. That might be a world record. When he succeeded, on banking was called Paul Sarbanes. You all remember him. I love Dodd's description of Sarbanes, somebody whose heart beat once an hour.